To the regular meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Tuesday, September the 8th, 2015 at 2 p.m. in Council Chambers. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll look at the adoption of some Committee of the Whole meetings on August the 17th, 2015, and regular open meetings on August the 17th, and those will be adopted by consensus. Business arising from prior minutes, nothing in there. And introduction of late items, no, nothing to be added. Delegations, no. Water matters, no. So we're on to correspondence. And our first item of correspondence is the Okanagan Basin Water Board meeting highlights. And I'd just like to speak about this for a couple minutes. I was at, you will notice on this page that there were a couple of things that are on there. One is the keynote speaker, which happened on September the 4th in Kelowna. And it was the 45th anniversary of OBWB. And it was the one at the very bottom there. And it was, there was a lady there named Julia Liu from the Southern Nevada Water System who provided the keynote speaker at the AGM. And it was about her agency's invasive mussel response and management in Lake Mead. And fortunately, Mr. Lacey was also at this meeting and took copious notes because I saw him doing that, so I'm sure that there will be something in the Osoyoos Times this week. It was quite interesting to see how quickly these zebra and quagga mussels had spread across the country. They sort of showed a map on a timeline, and it just spread right across, and it was 2007 that the mussels arrived in Arizona and around there. And since then they have spent millions putting in new water pipes because the water level has gone down, and I think it was something like $12,000 a year that they spent just cleaning up the mussels that affected the intake. So they showed pictures of underneath the water where they had pressure hoses hosing off the mussels that were attached to the screen so that they could bring it out. It's pretty scary. She suggests that what we do is really ramp up our fight against this. The problem is that it's very, very tiny mussel, and I don't know how this is going to work out, but it's almost like, you know, boats that come in, they do an inspection of them, and sometimes they don't catch everything, and it's pretty scary. However, she was very interesting, and there were several people there. And we did say at the OBWB meeting right after that several of the members said it's so nice to see that the Osoyoos Times prints many articles about water and zebra and milfoil. So I would just like, I said, well, you need to know that Mr. Lacey was here taking notes at this meeting as well. And so we thank Richard and Keith for the good job that they do in keeping the Osoyoos Times, because all of the people up and down the valley in the OBWB have a look at that, and they read the articles, so thank you. One of the other things, and I got this from the meeting, and I know we had these last year, these are Frisbees, but guess what? When you turn them upside down and put them on your grass, as soon as the water fills up, you turn your sprinkler off, so it measures the water. So the water collects in here, and I thought, what a neat idea. Apparently we had some of these. Casey who is at our front desk, said, yes, he has a couple of them at home and he and the boys play Frisbee. I said, no, bring them back here. What I'd like to do next year, and it's a suggestion, is to get some more of these and perhaps give them out next year when we're doing our water restrictions and when people are paying their taxes, and have them at the front desk, so that people don't put their water on for 6 hours at night. They put it on, measure how long it takes to fill this up, and then turn it off. So well, there's a good idea. The other thing that's on this report is the blue-green algae. It was interesting the other day. I turned on, I don't know, probably CBC, and there was a report on Lake Winnipeg, and what Lake Winnipeg, that's the big one, isn't it, in there, just north of the town of Winnipeg, or the city of Winnipeg. And they had done a whole hour, I think it was The Nature of Things was the program, on how they were dealing with algae in the water there, and that they were discovering that they needed to get the farmers and so on involved, because there was a lot of phosphorus that was going in there that was making this worse. So these kinds of topics are certainly going to be happening at our Lake Osoyoos Water Science Forum on October the 7th to the 9th. So I'll just put in a plug for that right now. If you haven't signed up for it, please considering doing so. You can go and see Mr. Davis over at the Sonora Center. The staff over there would be happy to sign you up, and for people who are locals, the cost is $25 for the entire conference, and that includes coffee breaks and lunch. So you can't do better than that. And I think a lot of these issues that we've been dealing with and that are on this report would also be dealt with on those days. Thank you. So do we need to accept that? Thank you. Rhodes, Campbell, that we accept this for information. Anybody else want to say anything about it? No. Okay. Bylaws, none. Next is the minor hockey financial request, and that would be Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. The South Okanagan Minor Hockey Association has requested funding for their novice tournament in November to offset the costs associated with hosting a banquet. SOMA is an excellent association, and it has had a wonderful relationship with the town of Osoyoos and the Sun Bowl Arena for many years. SOMA is one of our best customers, and they offer a program that is beneficial to all of our children. This past year, the town has supported SOMA in a variety of ways, namely the 3 separate grant and aid requests of $500 to support their teams that travel to the provincials. And then we also subsidize the use of the Sun Bowl Arena with some of the lowest rates in the Okanagan. At the Committee of the Whole meeting on August 17th, SOMA Vice President appeared before Council as a delegation to make a financial request in the amount of $2,560. The main reason for this request is to offer a banquet-type meal as part of their tournament on November 27th. The novice team feels they have to offer something extra in order to get teams to attend their tournament, as the City of Penticton had to reschedule due to BC Winter Games. Penticton will now be hosting a 12-team novice tournament at the same time. The novice team very abruptly found out about this schedule change, and they were frantically trying to come up with other alternatives. The 16-team tournament in the South Okanagan is the largest for SOMA, and not getting a full slate of teams would have financial consequences for the association. SOMA uses the profits from hosting tournaments to subsidize their registration fees. SOMA will have to increase registration fees for 2016 to compensate for lost revenue if they do not get full participation in this tournament. On the other hand, if the tournament is successful, they will get a very significant profit, which is something they have forecasted in their budget, and these funds assist with keeping registration costs down. The goal of the funding request is essentially to get at least 16 teams registered. Staff brought this request to the Osoyoos District Recreation Commission for feedback. The Commission unanimously agreed that approving this type of funding request would not be in the best interest of the town. It would set a precedent for other minor hockey teams or other groups from similar associations to make requests, thus putting the town in an impossible position. The Commission did agree that some type of support should be offered, and they felt that the free use of the Sonora Community Center would be more practical. The Commission also mentioned that service clubs in the community have potential funds to offset these types of costs, and they would be able to receive funds from them. The Rotary Club and the Royal Canadian Legion were two of those organizations mentioned. The Commission wanted to make sure that SOMA novice team make a similar request to the town of Oliver, as both communities would benefit and they have children from both communities on the team. The Commission felt that if the financial need was being asked for something other than a banquet, then it would have had more appeal or validity for council funding. Offering a banquet is no guarantee that the tournament will successfully attract 16 teams. In terms of implications for the community, supporting a funding request of this nature could potentially increase the economic impact of the sporting event for local businesses. The budget request of $2,560. The only GL area that some of this funding could come from is special events. If we utilize this general ledger area to pool funds, then other potential special events may not have funding, such as the Halloween Howl, Rocking with Santa, and TGIF. Council may consider the use of community development funds for this project. Significant dates, with the date of the tournament being November 27th to 29th, SOMA will need to finalize their plans they have for this tournament really quick. And in terms of sustainability, providing funding could have a positive and substantial financial impact on local businesses. In terms of options, option number one, council to offer SOMA novice team free use of the community center to host a banquet. This value is anywhere from $600 to $850, depending on the setup and insurance. Option number two, council to support the funding request of $2,560 to SOMA novice team to offset the costs associated with hosting a banquet. Option number three, council to recommend that SOMA approaches Destination Osoyoos for funding. And option four, council denies any assistance at this time. Staff is recommending option number one and option number three. Offering the Sonora Center as a place to hold the event would be a good savings as long as a portion of the $8 per plate was for facility rental. Otherwise, it would not make that much of a difference. And option number three, SOMA made a strong argument relating to the community economic benefits of this request. It is true that having this number of teams in the community will provide economic spin-offs. Council has provided Destination Osoyoos with an economic development mandate in the community and funds to support economic development activity. Having SOMA approach DO will enable this request for funding to be evaluated within the context of other economic development projects that receive funding.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. That was a very comprehensive look at the whole issue. And when they came to council last time, they made a very compelling reason, especially the four young children that spoke. They were excellent at presenting this to council. So, Councillor Campbell, would you like to start?
Sure. These are always tough requests because I always find it hard to turn down these requests when you see people within our community putting forth such an effort to bring something like this to our community, which does have significant economic development spin-off, as I've seen a similar tournament that started 4 or 5 years ago grow to its potential in our community. It makes these decisions hard to make, but I do think, and I agree with Director Davis, that we need to be careful about setting precedent as well. I do believe, it's my understanding that Destination Osoyoos will have this on the agenda for their meeting coming up this month. I do agree that it is Destination Osoyoos' mandate to provide fundings for projects like this. So I would agree with Director Davis's recommendation of 1 and 3, and I would put that motion on the table.
Thank you.
Second that.
And Councillor King seconded it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this? I guess I'll just say that that definitely economic development has now been given to Destination Osoyoos, and so that certainly option 3 does make sense from my point of view too. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So my initial thought about this was to support the funding request, and I'm still in that frame of mind. That would be specifically for the $2,560. So I guess I would be speaking against the motion, even though I think the motion makes perfect common sense and is very practical in that. So how uncomfortable is it speaking against a motion like that? But these types of novice teams, so I have 2 reasons. These type of novice teams that get together are the very youngest members of our community and the people who are going into minor hockey and that kind of thing. So they're very impressionable at this age. The group that came down here, and I freely admit I was totally seduced by them. They were very, very good, made perfect common sense to me. And, you know, I think that people underestimate how hockey tournaments influence economic development in our community. One of the primary ones that we have is our Adam tournament that we have here every year. I'll stick my neck out, fills hundreds of rooms in our community. And the spin-off for our restaurants and all of the other businesses in town is great. I just kind of felt that, you know, supporting this, and I would never do it, you know, for more than this initial year, would be the right thing to do. So that's me, in my opinion, speaking against the motion right now. So,
is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the motion? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that number 1 and number 3, that the use of the Sonora Center for a banquet, it would be free, and that they recommend that they approach Destination Osoyoos for funding. All in favor? Against? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Next is the Fire Hall Financial Oversight Regime. Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you. So my report concerns a proposal made by staff to council to authorize a financial oversight regime to be put in place for construction of our new fire hall. Our consultants, KMBR, issued the fire hall tender on August 12th with bids due by September 9th. That would have been yesterday. On recommendations of the architect on Friday, I authorized that it be extended out 3 days to the end of this week, the 11th, so that we keep some of the companies in the fold. Prior to issuing the tender, the Fire Hall Coordination Committee worked with our consultants to fine-tune the project scope and reduce some costs. Recent discussions with KMBR indicate a number of contractors will submit proposals, including some from the Okanagan, and they expect them to be competitively priced. It will take our consultants about a week to carefully review proposals, check references, and submit recommendations for council to select a contractor. The administration has cautioned council in recent meetings that rising fire hall costs could seriously reduce or even exceed our 10% construction contingency fund, which will leave us exposed to possible risk of contract bids going over budget and or leaving an insufficient reserve to pay for change orders during construction. Consequently, on July 30th, Council resolved both that the Fire Hall Coordination Committee prioritize further potential cost reductions in the event that tender does go over budget, and that the committee must come back to Council for approval of expenditures of any of the identified 10% contingency funds to develop a final fire hall project. On August 18th, Council supported a list of potential cost reductions drawn up by the administration as a starting point for prioritization by the committee. The committee addressed these at their September 1st meeting. Hopefully these measures will not be required, but it's best to be prepared to avoid any undue delay of construction. Also at their August 18th meeting, Council discussed a proposed regime of financial oversight for putting in place ready for construction. Before considering approving the regime, Council requested some clarification of lines of communication and reference to the 10% contingency fund. Attached is a revised procedure, PR FIN-001 TR for Osoyoos Fire Hall Construction Oversight Regime, which is the subject of discussion today. To be ready for the start of fire hall construction, we need to supplement our current fire hall coordination committee with an appropriate oversight regime to help ensure project completion on time and within budget. The committee, with fire department representation, has contributed to an operations-first fire hall design with a priority on providing functional efficiency for our volunteer firefighters. Also, throughout the lengthy process of pre-design, final design, and working drawings, Council was consulted on all major choices for balancing operational efficiency with cost effectiveness, including site area requirements, facility scope and size, and operating features. However, construction will bring new challenges, including inevitable requests for cost changes, which will require proper management procedures and a careful stewardship of our 10% contingency fund to avoid going over budget or spending more monies than we need to. The attached terms of reference for an oversight regime is designed to meet this need, and if approved by Council, will be added to our policy and procedures manual. In initiating the oversight regime, we have been guided in part by recommendations from a recent case study by the BC Auditor General of Local Government on how local governments can better manage large capital projects. In the case of our fire hall, we have already followed some of the auditor's recommendations, including providing Council with detailed cost projections, potential project options, and risk assessments. Also in keeping with the auditor's recommendations, our proposed oversight regime needs confirmation by Council to ensure that the administration is acting within their delegated authority. The TOR, Terms of Reference, covers general reporting requirements to Council along with additional procedures to effectively manage change orders. Requests for change orders usually come from the contractor, but may also be initiated by the town as the owner, or by KBMVR as our architect of record, with responsibility for overseeing the construction contract. Justification for change orders can include insufficient clarity in the original tender drawings and specifications, opportunities for worthwhile improvements that may surface during construction, or unforeseen circumstances such as discontinued materials or delays due to weather conditions. An example of an unjustifiable change order is when a contractor knowingly bids low and then tries to recover the rear costs during construction. But our consultants will assist in guarding against this risk by carefully reviewing proposals for any inconsistencies and checking references. Depending upon circumstances, some change orders may be directly dealt with by the CEO, whereas others will have to go to Council. Options. Option 1, Council approves procedure PR FIN-001 TR for Osoyoos Fire Hall Construction Oversight Regime, or Option 2, Council makes further revisions before approval. Implications. Community, provide a modern, well-equipped fire hall, training facility, and emergency operations center. Organization, Fire Hall Coordination Committee includes administrative representatives along with fire department representatives who report directly to Council. Budget, detailed in other reports. Significant dates. We are behind our original schedule to start construction August 2015 and complete by August 2016. Sustainability, the fire hall will be a green facility. $407,143 of gas tax funding is earmarked for investing in fire hall green components, and additionally Fortis has been linked through to our architect about potential natural gas and electrical incentives. Recommendations. The administration recommends option 1 for Council to approve procedures PR FIN-001 TOR for Osoyoos Fire Hall Construction Oversight Regime to ensure readiness for starting fire hall construction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cunningham. The procedures manual is here. Do we need to go through that, or are we just accept?
I can read out the actual.
I'm looking at Mr. Manco.
I don't know that we have to read it, but I think we can highlight some of the main the
Okay.
main content of the policy.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on a generally monthly basis, the Chief Administration Officer will be advising Council generally on the progress of the fire hall. And at any time, he may request a special closed meeting with Council, including on an emergency matter, including but not necessarily on change order requests. Outline a procedure here of change order procedures. And overall, they should be processed as quickly as possible to avoid unnecessary delays to the project. Normally, a request would be submitted directly to KMBR Architects as their architect of record, except that any change orders emanating from the fire department, and this was the clarification that Council wanted, must be submitted to the Director of Planning and Development Services as project coordinator. The architect of record will promptly submit all the change orders with a supporting brief with 5 items of required information that are laid out here. The project coordinator, that's myself, when receiving that, will pass on to the CEO, and the CEO, depending on the circumstances, will take the appropriate action. And I'll read this out in full. As the owner's representative, approve or deny a change order request in whole or in part, which is one is within the CO's 30,000 spending authority, will not exceed our 10% project contingency fund, and would not expand the scope of the project over project design, or otherwise will make recommendations to Council for that determination. And also the CEO could be called upon to participate as the owner's representative in any required negotiations with the contractor to resolve a change order dispute. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, what are your wishes on this?
Question, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I think this document's very prudent to have in place. What if the RFPs come in over budget? Because we're really talking to an unknown here.
Yeah, well, that is the situation that we've been trying to guard against by first of all, we did cut some elements out of the project worth about $54,000 to make sure that that we come in within budget. But if we go over budget, and it's not by an excessive amount, then the usual process is for the consultant to sit down with a contractor and reduce the size of the project so it falls within budget. And they will do that armed with information from ourselves as to what would be the priorities for cost cutting. So obviously there's some things that could be cut which wouldn't affect the integrity of the fire hall at this time. There's other items that could be postponed and built at a later date. But the intent would be to get it down to a cost where we both cover the construction costs that the contractor is going to be taking on, and also that we leave in place our 10% contingency fund so that when there's change orders come into play, that we have enough money to pay for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Youngberg? Moving option 1.
Yes.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor King? Any other discussion? Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. So when a change order request comes from the contractor, it goes to the architect first?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and then we receive a recommendation.
That's correct.
Through you first?
Yeah, so he'd be submitting a report to myself dealing with things like the justifiability and merits of the request, the monetary value of the additions that were proposed, his recommendations, and so that would all be contained within a brief. It would come to myself, and I would review very, very quickly, and I would be requesting input as is needed automatically from the fire chief in all cases, and then as needed from the town's building inspector, director of public works, and from our engineers. And so I would add that information and send the report off to the CEO for their very expeditious treatment, so that we authorize the payment in part or whole, or deny it, or it is referred to council depending on the circumstances.
Okay.
So,
Yes. Sorry.
but
go
as a
ahead.
matter of clarity, if the change order is $30,000 or under, within my spending authority, I have that authority to spend, to make that decision. If that decision is over that amount, then I would have to bring it to council.
Okay. Yes,
I
Councillor
just
King.
wanted clarity, Mr. Remenko. I thought in the document it said if it comes from our side, you have the latitude of 30,000. If it comes to their side, it just goes to planning. It doesn't say it goes through to you?
No,
Everything goes to you?
all change orders come through me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, if the, I think the difference is that if the change order comes from the fire department, it goes to the director of planning as the coordinator. Then he'll send it to the architect.
That is correct.
And then it works its way. So there's just a little bit of a different loop,
Right.
depending on where the change order request is coming from.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor of option 1? Thank you. Any against? No, that was unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Destination Osoyoos fee-for-service agreement, Mr. Remenko.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. The town of Osoyoos and Destination Osoyoos have a 5-year fee-for-service agreement established February 14th, 2014 in the amount of $88,000 plus CPI for the provision of economic development services. At the time of development of this agreement, Destination Osoyoos was provided spending guidelines as outlined below. Up to $48,000 can be used for salaries and benefits, up to $10,000 for administration, up to $10,000 for travel and conferences, and up to $20,000 for program development. The attached letter is asking the town to eliminate the spending categories and allow DO to use the funds as they saw best suited for their operations. The spending guidelines are restrictive in some categories and excessive in others. The spending categories were initially established by council for the following reasons. At the time of contract development, no executive manager was on salary, and council wanted to provide a limit towards salary investment. 2, council wanted to ensure that funds were allocated to all areas of operations. And 3, council wanted to see funds spent on clearly identified economic development projects and activities. DO now has an executive manager in place and is working through providing economic development and tourism development services. In terms of implications, the community continues to have a nonprofit organization that is supported to provide economic and tourism services. Organizationally, a new schedule to this agreement would have to be developed. Budget, no impact to the overall funding of this activity, as the total will remain the same. Significant dates, this request is for the 2015 year and the remainder of the agreement. 4 options are being presented to council. 1, council passes a resolution eliminating all the expenditure parameters that have been established as requested by DO. 2, council denies the request to remove the funding parameters and the contract remains status quo. 3, council passes a resolution retaining or changing some of the expenditure parameters and eliminates only a portion of the expenditure parameters. And 4, council requests more information. In terms of a recommendation, administration recommends option number 3. Administration recommends the council consider retaining the 20% of program funding as an expenditure parameter and or reallocating some of the funding to this program area. Council has provided DO with the responsibility for delivering economic development services and program in the community. Council still receives requests from individuals and groups to fund economic development related activities. Having a designated program component may assist council and community in managing and responding to these requests.
Thank you very much. Council, anybody like to comment on this or make a motion? Councillor Rhodes.
I'd like to ask CAO Remenko if he has any information on the reason for this request. I read through the letter quite carefully, and it states in there that the reason is so that they will have more flexibility. And I'm not sure if that's really a reason. I'm just wondering if there was any more information that we had, or what the motivation. And I ask that only because being part of setting that criteria with the past council was something that made perfect and common sense at the time, and I'm just wondering what changed, or what is going to, actually more specifically, what is going to change if we, offer them more flexibility with it.
I don't have any more information in around what the flexibility is specifically. I can only speculate that, some of the categories are too high or too low, that they also are dealing with other, I would call them pools of money, and so they will set their budget, and maybe the 10,000 administration is too high, maybe it's too low, that type of thing. So, that's all I got.
Would it be reasonable to assume that should have been part of the request? I'm not trying to be unreasonable here. It's just an ask, and there's no purpose behind it.
Well, I guess it says allowing flexibility in allocation of funding for the deliverables and operations. So that's all I can, that to me says that there's some categories that are too tight, and some are there's too much money, and some have not enough. Perhaps
Councillor King?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess when I look at the 48,000 for salary and benefits, I don't see a specific person there, so I would think some of that money goes towards one of the staff, not the manager, and some money comes out of another pocket. So I think that's a little high personally out of this particular fund. Admin 10,000 to manage 88,000 to me sounds a little high at 12%. Travel, I know they do have to go to some functions to bring different things here. I would like to see more money going into program development personally.
I think that's what the ask is, Jim. I think it's to bolster up the program development and delivery would be the motive behind the letter. Could it have been laid out a little more clearly? Probably, but I think that's really the purpose of the ask here, is to bolster that up based on the amount of requests that are coming through Destination Osoyoos, and as we're getting requests here at council, and we are turning people toward Destination Osoyoos, as we rightfully should, I think they'd like to bolster that up, and that's the reason.
Councillor Youngberg.
Thanks. Mayor McCordoff, isn't it reasonable that we could request a letter suggesting that they outline where they expect to spend the funding instead of giving them an open carte blanche with 88,000?
I don't know whether that's how that can be done effectively. I mean, we're looking to next year, obviously. It'd be tough to be able to pinpoint what the asks are going to be. I think we could ask for a little bit of clarification to overcome my assumption and find out that that's fact. But it would be tough to break that down moving forward with a full detailed explanation of how that money will be spent. I guess
or could be spent.
Could be spent.
Would it be reasonable to ask them to retain at 20% at a minimum of this money in order to manage economic development requests, and give them leeway with the other 65,000 or 68,000?
20% would actually be less than the 20,000, so maybe you'd want to up that to 25%.
I was looking at the recommendation which says retain 20,000, and I'm thinking if we put that in there as at the minimum 20,000, they could then use the rest of the money to either for salaries or include it more in program. But I don't think it needs to be exactly 20,000. They could include more, and maybe that's what they meant. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Well, with all due respect, I think it's well within our mandate here to ask them for more specifics. You know, there's a lot of conversation going on about where they might or may not. I'd like to know specific. I mean, this is an $88,000 investment in that organization in tourism and economic development. I think it's very reasonable to ask them to be very specific about what they're going to use the money for. And I believe that that should have been part of the request from the beginning. I mean, to make a statement, you know, and I know it sounds critical, that they will have more flexibility on how to use the funds. That's not what I want to hear anyway. I'd like to hear exactly what they're going to be using it for.
Councillor Campbell?
Can I make the recommendation that Councillor King and Sierra Romenko meet with Gail Scott, the Executive Director, and get clarification?
So that would be number 4 then. Council requests more information. Is that?
I think a motion just directing the administration to request that Destination Osoyoos provide additional information on what their intended spending directions are going to be is probably very appropriate in terms of option number 4, the asking for additional information.
So I would make that motion.
Yeah.
And you're seconding it? So that would be number 4, that the administration is going to ask for additional information on that? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Next on our agenda is the airport expansion business case. Mr. Romenko.
Thank you. The Osoyoos Airport Development Society, and I'll refer to it as Society from now on, going forward, was recently formed as a society to promote the expansion of the Osoyoos airstrip. Previously, Council had engaged this group as an advisory committee for airport airstrip expansion. Attached is the Society's history of recent efforts to expand the airstrip. Council has participated in funding the airstrip expansion by contributing to 2 studies in a total amount of $7,200. Earlier this year, administration requested Council fund a business case to assess the merits of proceeding with a business case to repurpose the airstrip lands to industrial lands. Council denied this request and tabled the repurposing of the airstrip until the Society presented their Council requested business plan. At the earlier presentation, the Society targeted this fall to provide a business plan for the airstrip redevelopment and provided no indication that Council would be approached to fund a portion of the business plan. The attached letter from the Society is asking Council to contribute a maximum of $15,000 to cost share half the cost of a business case for the airstrip expansion and appoint a Council member to the steering committee. The attached letter provides no additional information on the other sources of funding to cover the remaining $15,000. Given the stated economic benefits of this airstrip development, other stakeholders, such as the Osoyoos Indian Band and the Regional District, can be viewed as benefactors. The Society hasn't clearly articulated other economic development, regional partnership involvement in this project. Administration has been closely monitoring the recommendations of the BC Municipal Auditor General. The Auditor General has provided recommendations to other communities that strong business cases be developed prior to making any major municipal project spending. All indications are that any future decision-making relating to the future of the airstrip needs to be supported by a business case. Having a business case assessment for the airstrip development will not address the value added of the larger airport development project versus the repurposing to industrial lands. Having a business case for the airstrip enhancement may illustrate that issues related to the development are insurmountable and community investment is not the best course of action. An important feature of the business case is the terms of reference that includes the project scope, forecasted value added, and assessment of development issues. The terms of reference provides information from reliable sources that enables Council to answer questions that will provide Council with a level of assurance that a project path is in the best interest of the community and supports investment or non-investment in the project. In terms of implications, community, the airstrip has been a topic of discussion for expansion or redevelopment for the purposes of industrial lands. The development of the business case may assist in determining the future possible of funding the expansion of the airstrip to provide more services. Organizationally, no staff or organizational implications. Council may appoint a member to the Airport Steering Committee. Council has contracted economic development activities to Destination Osoyoos. Budget, the 2015 budget identified $50,000 towards costs associated to repurposing the airstrip to industrial lands. A small portion of these funds have been expended on an environmental assessment, but sufficient funds are remaining to cover the $15,000 ask for the business case. Staff had earlier requested using a portion of these funds to fund a business case for the airstrip repurposing to industrial lands. Significant date. No specific date was provided. However, the group would like to proceed as soon as possible. In terms of options, the administration is presenting 7 options. The first one being approve the request by the society for a maximum of $15,000 to pay half the cost of the business case for airstrip expansion. 2, deny the request by the society for a maximum of $15,000 to pay half the cost of the business case for airstrip expansion. 3, identify an amount of financial support different from the amount requested by the society to pay half the cost of the business case for airstrip expansion. 4, refer the group to Destination Osoyoos to seek out economic development and municipal regional district tax funding to pay all or a portion of the requested amount. 5, council appoints a member of council to the Airport Steering Committee. 6, council denies the request to appoint a member of council to the Airport Steering Committee. And 7, council requests additional information. In terms of a recommendation, the administration recommends option number 4. The expansion of the airstrip is clearly seen as a community economic development initiative. Council provided DO with economic development mandate and has provided funds for economic development projects. The expansion of the airstrip is also linked to the development of tourism industry in the community. Therefore, municipal regional district tax funding needs to be considered as another potential source of funding of this project of this nature. The DO Board of Directors endorses this project. Therefore, consideration for funding the needed activities to move the project forward needs to be considered within the DO economic development mandate. Recent changes to the Resort Municipality Initiative disqualified Resort Municipality Initiative funding as a source of funding for this project. The administration recommends the business case terms of reference as inputted and or received by the administration and approved by council. Any business case being used for the future council decision making must have the information that council needs to make a decision. Council's involvement on the steering committee is at the discretion of council. Having a council member on this committee will increase communication between the two groups. If council supports placing a council member on this committee, the administration recommends that the council member be one that is currently representing council at the DO board.
Thank you very much. As everybody will know, this is a pretty hot issue right now, and there have been, not only did we just receive this information at the last meeting, so we couldn't comment on it before now. It was handed out to us at the last council meeting, but there have been several letters to the editor and people weighing in on this issue. So I think we have a lot of the information here, and we'll have to make a decision. So I'm turning it over to council. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to clarify, is this a case study as what's the best use for the property, whether it's industry or airport, or is this a case study as though it is becoming an airport as a business plan?
My understanding is that the requested funds are for a business case for the airstrip redevelopment into a larger airport facility. Yeah, the administration will probably, in the budgeting process, ask council to reconsider its decision on the repurposing of the lands, because the repurposing of the lands still hasn't gone away.
Yeah, that's...
So, you know, we have as a community, we have a piece of land there that is being identified as two potential uses, and a point is well made that prior to any decision-making process, you need good information. So how do we know what's the best use of the lands for the community, unless you have, in essence, two business cases?
Exactly, that's,
So can I just ask, the business case should be looked at first, if that was the way we went, before we decide what the next best use, or before taking the other the other thing off the table? Is that the way you see it?
Yes, you know, the business case needs to be done on the airstrip expansion. Council could wait to see what the results of that is, and at the same time weigh whether or not they want to take a look at airport repurposing for other purposes.
Okay. So the business case comes first, and then we look at perhaps repurposing or not, and take that off the table. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Councillor Youngberg.
Just going a little bit further regarding our discussions with Destination Osoyoos and economic development, I'm really not comfortable at all with referring it to DO when we have no idea if they even have $15,000 in their economic development funding to provide this ask. So I think it would be more prudent to approach Destination Osoyoos as we were in the last discussion, to ask them where the funding is at for economic development purposes. I don't think it's prudent on our part to keep recommending economic development funding be paid by Destination Osoyoos when we don't know if there's even any funds there to be used. So I don't know what area of the recommendations from 1 to 7 would be, but I think maybe 7, where we require more information, because you can't, I don't really think it's the proper thing to recommend economic development pay the $15,000 when we don't know if they have the funding or not.
Councillor Campbell?
I'm not sure option number 7, because I'm not sure what specific, we're not looking for any additional information from the committee. What we're questioning is where there's funds available. So, I mean, there's, I guess, 2 aspects to this. Is, does this council believe that this money should be spent, whether it comes from DO or otherwise, and then to look toward where that funding could come from if that's the case. I do know that this item will be on the agenda at the next DO meeting, which is coming up shortly, which would answer the question as far as if there's funds available right, to go forward with the study. That would be my recommendation. I believe this absolutely falls under, well, not only economic development, but in the long term potentially tourism, and this should fall under Destination Osoyoos' mandate. But if the funds aren't there through Destination Osoyoos, I'd like the opportunity to be able to revisit it as well.
Right.
Am I correct in that we can, if Destination Osoyoos required some extra money for projects, that they would be able to come back to council and ask for that? Was that not built into?
That's built into their economic development contract. Again, we wanted these projects to be identified up front in our budgeting process. However, you know, things being what they are, it doesn't always happen like that. I think part of the you know, I guess the principle of referring this back to Destination Osoyoos relates to the whole scope of looking at this particular project within. It's one thing to say you're supportive out of it, but it's another thing, and then refer it to somebody else to fund. Mm-hmm. But if you're, you know, really carrying the Destination Osoyoos economic development mandate, and I don't know if it was ever considered for funding by Destination Osoyoos, or there was just a letter requesting a letter of support. But you know, rationale for sending this back in that particular area would be that if it came back to council, that it come back to council with both representatives of Destination Osoyoos and the airport committee side by side saying this is important to economic development in this community. We don't have the money, or we feel it should be taken from other sources. But the other component was that it does have a strong tourism. The pitch by the group was a strong tourism pitch. The municipal regional district 2% hotel tax money is there to support tourism-related types of activities. So it should be considered as part of the funding pool and from the administration's perspective.
Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Member Kordoff. So I'd like to offer a motion based on the wording in option number 4. And I'd like to speak to that if there's a seconder.
So, option number 4, and is there a seconder? Thank
The
you.
recommended option.
Yeah, Councillor King. So, go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you. So, as Mayor McCordoff mentioned earlier, this has become a very controversial issue in our community, and driven by the supporters of developing the airport. I have total respect for everything that they've said. I think it's a great idea. However, everyone must understand that there is a compelling argument and community support to repurpose that property, not necessarily to, to an identified opportunity like we had with the last development. But it is a piece of property. There are people in our community that have compelling arguments for looking at other opportunities with that property. I like the motion for one reason only, is because if we turn it over to them, hopefully we will get an objective opinion back from them, and that's why it's so important to me. Right now, I feel like probably the rest of the council is like I'm sitting on the fence. There's pushing and pulling, there's ideas, there's opinions. This is a great opportunity to get some objectivity and have that come back to us in the way of a report. If the money becomes an obstacle, we've already clarified that that can be brought back to us for future thing. But it's all about getting the opinion from a group in our community that's have accepted our responsibility. So that objectivity, that objective opinion would be very, very important to me, and this is a great way to get that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Youngberg?
Yes, excuse me, and that's what I was really leading into, is more information from DO and economic development, and to really create a communication from both sides as to they support it. So if they support it, maybe we should see what their feelings are as far as moving forward. But a business case study is just critical because it's such a hot item in the community. I think we really have to work to make sure that this business case study is done correctly and responsibly for the town.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Rhodes?
Just adding to that comment, if I might, it would be equally as important for us to have a case study on repurposing that property as well. Yeah. So that we can have
Agreed.
total information from both sides. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to just focus on one other point I had mentioned in the report, and that's the importance that council approves the terms of reference for any business case that is going to come forward towards it. Ultimately, the decision on whether or not that airstrip becomes a broader redeveloped project will be council's.
Yes.
And council should have a look and approval at the terms of reference to ensure that it's comfortable that terms of reference is asking the right questions in the business case.
Good point.
So can I just ask, if a business case was to go forward and be funded, that it would come back to council first to look at the terms of reference before it goes out?
Yeah, that's part of my recommendation as well.
And the other part of your recommendation is that a council member be be put on the board, and your recommendation is that it would be the DO rep on the board, which would be Councillor Campbell. I believe, yes.
Yeah,
That's
again, the council's discretion whether or not they want to become a part of that committee, but if it is, there should be an economic development and/or tourism link, council link.
Councillor Campbell.
Can that be added to Councillor Rhodes' motion on the table, or does that have to be a separate motion?
I think we could do a separate motion on
Separate.
that.
Okay.
So the motion on the table is, Ms. Scott, could you read it, please?
Moved by Councillor Rhodes, second by Councillor King, and resolved that Council approves referring the Osoyoos Airport Development Society to Destination Osoyoos to seek economic development and municipal regional district tax funding to pay all or a portion of the requested amount.
Thank you. If that's all right. All in favor of the motion? Lori. So that was carried. Now, there's a second motion on the floor. Is there someone who'd like to move that? Councillor Rhodes?
I'll make that motion that Councillor Campbell be appointed to that committee. Sorry, I've forgotten the wording already for it.
To the
To the Airport Steering Committee.
Right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Is there a seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Youngberg. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, another comment from Councillor Rhodes was mentioning about possibly doing another case study, and I just want to leave that thought for next year's budget.
Yes, it's on the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want a resolution on the terms of reference? No?
That might be a good idea as well. I think that sends the message that the council has addressed the issue, and that they want to approve any final terms of reference prior to the business case being developed.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Campbell have made that motion. All in favor? Against? Thank you. Okay. Back to the beginning here. Any notice of motion? No, hearing none. Cash requirements, general accounts, where have we got this? The general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena, financial accounts. The general accounts for $561,459.01. The arena accounts at $4,384.54. Both of those will be adopted by consensus. And the net payroll accounts of $157,075.17. And that's August 1st to September the 8th. And those are received for information. Next is the building report, a summary of building permits. And we had already talked about this one this morning a little bit, and we are quite delighted to see that the total to date is $5,223,000, and Councillor Rhodes would like to speak to this.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Well, I was going to do it in my council report.
Oh, you can do it right now. It's up for
but there might be a bit of a
grabs.
void. I just wanted to draw attention to this report once again, and the significance that it has in our community. Those totals, our year-to-date totals for this year, are roughly double of what they were last year. And you know, when you look at these figures and you have an understanding of what they really mean, they are a perfect barometer for the economic status of our community and that kind of thing. And they're not the only barometer, of course, but they're certainly a very, very effective one. And to have a doubling effect over a year is a very, very profound thing in our community. So I wanted to propose in a completely lighthearted way that council paused for about 8 or 10 seconds, and hope the rest of the community will grab the significance of this report while we do so. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, but I'm going to sit here and wait 10 seconds before I talk again. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I think we totally agree, and I don't think I waited the 10 seconds, but I will after. Okay. Thank you. And we will now go on to committee reports, and I don't think we have any committee reports from anybody. The CAO report.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Just a few of the activities the administration and staff have been involved in over the last a couple of weeks. Starting first in community services, just a couple of things. That September 16th is the mass registration for programming over at the Sonora Center, and September 11th to 18th is the week to purchase an annual pass at a 30% discount. Our Osprey Nest is up and running. It had some issues. Our technology, well, we are constantly searching for improvements in that particular area, and our thanks to BYLAWS Electric for and One Technologies for responding so quickly, that because we did get numerous emails from people actually throughout, some from the United States and across Canada, wondering if something had happened to our Osprey. The anti-loitering units are up and operational at Gyro Park, and one more is left to install over at Cottonwood. I imagine there'll be some tinkering with the units until we get them just right. In terms of corporate services, some heavy phone volumes August 20th as a result of the water outage in the rural water system 8, and also some extra phone volume when the water main behind the Golden Chopsticks was down. And we'll be doing a repair on that, I guess, in the next week or so. In terms of our MTI follow-up letters on overdue tickets, some of them have been sent to our collection agency. In terms of training, Sonora Community Programmer, some action tracking and time-off management training. Several conference calls what we've been involved in with the Kamloops Provincial Emergency Operations Center since August 14th. We're on those calls on a daily basis to ensure that we're in the loop in terms of what's happening there. And we're also in the process of reviewing our town's emergency plan in preparation for our emergency executive committee meeting next week. There's preparation has begun for the request for proposals on property insurance, and we've been reviewing our public washroom and bylaw enforcement contracts. In terms of planning and development, they've been working still on the Gyro Pier project, looking at more additional information in that area. And then, as referred to earlier, because they're kind of project managing the process, our tender closure for the date for the fire hall was moved to September 11th at the contractor's request, and which is a positive that we have a lot of interest, so we're going to give them a lot of time to sharpen their pencils. In terms of public works, a little bit of sidewalk repair by Councillor Youngberg's to fix that quite a big heave in the sidewalk. Thanks to Dave from TELUS, there was a major utility box that had to be removed and fixed up in there. I reported earlier that our effluent storage ponds, one was at winter storage levels now, and that we are in the process of providing lake water into our lagoon, so that to water the golf course to keep up the water levels, and then we'll be monitoring that to bring it down to winter levels as well. And we talked earlier about the transformer at Station 8 irrigation district being down, but we got it back up, and we'll be looking at a new electrical system for that in the budgeting period. And a special thank you to Wayne Harfman and Tyson Costa. They were two of our summer students that worked for us, and their last day was August 28th, and we still have one on staff here for a couple more weeks, as he does not start until October. So we're providing him few more days of weed eating and that. So, and that's, in terms of myself, the resort municipality report is being submitted as part of our annual commitments. We had our council budget and business planning session, the first one, and a meeting with the national park representatives and to discuss going forward perspective. We're meeting with the minister, and also had some discussions with Destination Osoyoos on our partnership agreement. And that's my report for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Romanko. Did you have a question? No. Oh, sorry. You're ahead of me. So we need a motion to accept the report. Councillor Campbell and Councillor Youngberg. Switching this up.
Apologies, I got excited.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, on to councillor reports, and Councillor Campbell, you're first.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. First off, I'd just like to wish the best of luck in a new school year for our preschool, elementary, and secondary students. I just wanted to send a big kudos out to Jamie Elder and everybody else that played a part in putting together the Mexican Appreciation Day a week ago. What an incredible turnout. The bleachers in the gymnasium were packed. The place was packed. Big lineups for food. A ton of hard work went into it. So just very appreciative of that. I also want to comment again on the amount of money raised and the resources raised within our community to help those who were evacuated and lost homes in different areas. Again, just incredibly impressive to see this community come together and what it can do. Also looking forward to my first UBCM conference coming up in a week and a half. And I'd also like to just welcome our Coyotes back to the ice, hopefully for another exciting hockey season. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. As attended the Osoyoos District and Recreation Committee last week, one of the new initiatives is to try to create a new database for volunteers that all nonprofits will be able to tap into. So I think that's a great initiative. Also, kudos to our staff, Jeanette Van Venin, Corporate Services, for the great job she's done amongst all the fires and bringing the services together to fight those fires. Looking forward to the Coyotes starting out next week, and really want to thank all the people in the community for the Rotary Lobster Fest this weekend. That is an actual sellout, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Youngberg.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I've had a few things to do over the last 3 weeks, but I'm getting out of one because the library meeting is September the 16th, and my backup is Councillor Campo.
I should have thanked you for that in my report. Thank you.
I'm going to be away for 10 days, so I thank you very much for attending. We do have an important item on the agenda, which is...
Sorry to interrupt. Will this mean I have to get a library card?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
You don't sit at the meeting until you pick up your library card. Anyways, and of course, my absolute congratulations as well to Home Hardware for the huge show they did in Rock Creek with their donations, and also Unity for the appreciation night for the Mexican workers that we're so lucky to have. It really does go to show that, you know, Osoyoos is Canada's warmest welcome when we are so generous and help in so many ways for people that help us, and disastrous situations that are still many people recovering for that. 3 new homes being built under the building permits. That's absolutely great. In the business, you know, we haven't seen 3 in 1 month for a long time, so it's really great. To the 10-second delay from Councillor Rhodes.
Savor the moment.
Yes, and it's so nice that we have a little less smoke, but I do know the fire is still burning, and keep up the good work, firefighters. Mm-hmm. We all are thinking of you and giving you energy at the same time, I'm very sure. And just to say one more thing regarding Mr. Romanko's report of Dave from TELUS helping correct the situation out in front of my place. He's a great resource for Osoyoos. We have to, maybe I'll write to TELUS and tell him what a great individual they have working for him. He just responds all the time and helped community public works so much in that repair. And just another reminder, McLean Construction's having a big fundraising golf tournament this weekend, and they raise a lot of money for various causes. And so we would like to support them. I'm going to golf in the tournament. They have a great auction at the dinner at the golf course, if in fact some of you can make it up just to support the auction and have a little bite to eat with them. It would be nice. That's at 5:30 on Saturday evening. And on Thursday, I'm off to Healthy Communities meeting in Penticton, trying to get some information of how we make Osoyoos much more healthy community to live in. That's my report.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you're able to go to that meeting, Councillor Youngberg, because I have another meeting at that time and I was going to go. So good for you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCorda. Well, regarding the fundraising that went on for some of the victims of fire, particularly in the Rock Creek area, I'd like to pass on a great big thank you to Annette Starr for her efforts. Last week she had that little bit of a barbecue at the Best Western Hotel and unbelievably raised over $21,000 at that affair. $21,000.
That's great.
Yeah, just an awesome thing. And for you that in the community that don't get the connection, Annette is also our main fundraiser for our fireworks display on Canada Day every year. What a great thing that she's doing in our community with that and many other things that she does. Just a big ditto to Jamie Elder at Unity. Way to go. I don't know what else to say. It was just a phenomenal success, and the people that attended there were all very appreciative of it. And just a couple other quick things. Back to brown lawns again. If your lawn is brown, thank you very much for being informed and aware and showing that you care about water conservation in our community. And not so similarly, if you have a lush green lawn right now, where you can draw your own conclusions about how I feel about that. And not participating in water conservation in our community is kind of a downside to the whole project. We are still very much engaged in drought conditions in our community. Just because the weather's a little bit cooler and we had one rainfall, really did not change anything significantly. So, one other quick thing, on Friday afternoon, I will be going to the dog park, our main one that's right directly north of the tennis courts beside our high school, to spend some budget money on our dog park up there. I know we had some conversations during our budget process, and holy man, everybody just got thoroughly engaged in it. We have a couple of quotations for some work to be done up there, primarily shade and some other structures and that kind of thing. Reason why I'm mentioning that right now is it is on Friday afternoon. We do have 2 or 3 days. Anybody that's interested in our dog park up there and have any ideas or opinions about how that budget money can be spent, it's not too late. Please email me, give me a call, let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions. They're more than welcome at this point. And that's my report.
Thank you. So lots of things have been going on, and I've been involved in a few things too, and I'm not going to repeat some of the things that that other people have said, although I was at the Mexican Day and astounded at the Sonora Center how many people were there. I was also helped out at the Elks Lunch in the fundraising effort that they had over at the Best Western last week. I peeled the hamburger patties. They were frozen. And the hot dogs, that was my job, not to flip them. Anyway, there were $21,000 they kept track, which is phenomenal. And it's not just for Rock Creek, it's also for the Oliver Fire Department, or fire people that had lost property there. And there was lots of people brought items for the food bank up at Rock Creek, and the Land Sea bus, the big black one, pulled up, and we filled that bus with stuff, and there were 2 seats at the front for 2 of the employees, Sandy Summers and another lady, and the bus driver, and the entire bus, floor to ceiling, was filled with things that went to the Greenwood, I think it's Greenwood, the food bank up there. So it was phenomenal, and I was happy to be part of that. I just want to say something about horse racing, because that should have been on the 22nd, and I know that Councillor Youngberg was one of the people who was very much involved in setting that up. Unfortunately, the horses could not get here because of the smoke and the fires down south, so it had to be cancelled, and there was no other way of getting another day arranged for a meeting this year. I just want to thank the entire Desert Park Exhibition Society for a job well done, and I know they felt badly about not being able to put on that second day, but I'm sure they'll be back next year, so thank you to all of you, and Councillor Youngberg. National Park, it has been mentioned, and if you go on the town website, you can have a look at it. There's some questions that require an answer. I think it's by the 15th of October that you have to submit this. And anybody who is interested in commenting on the proposed intentions paper, please have a look at it and do so, and council will be looking at that too. Music in the park. I went to all of them on the Friday nights. A couple of them were on Saturday nights because of the street dances. So that's another thing. The music in the park was wonderful. It was the 3 Amigos this year that put it on. Alan Blaken and Rusty Copeland and Janice St. Louis. And they did a terrific job, and they are preparing a report for council to say how many people attended and the costs and so on, because it was from resort municipality funding. So congratulations to the 3 of them, and I think they're planning to do it again next year, so that would be great. And the street dances. I was in Vancouver for one of them, but I went to the second one, and it was put on by the Senior Center. Val and Bonnie were there the last time, and Clint. And Clint was the MC, and he is just like the Energizer Bunny. He was up there on stage, got people up dancing. They provided all kinds of prizes and really got people involved. And so I say thank you very much to all of them. I know that the Senior Center is not able to, with their staff, to take this job on next year, but I believe that Clint has a few people willing to help him. So we're looking forward to doing it again next year. Oh, don't forget to watch Canadian TV tomorrow night, because the race, the Amazing Race Canada, will feature some things from Osoyoos and the Okanagan Valley. So watch it tomorrow night. That's Wednesday night. The Osoyoos Lake Water Science Forum, and I think I've said it before, also on our town website, October the 7th to the 9th. It's a really, really good event to go to, all about water issues, and I did mention it before this morning. If you wish to go over to the Sonora Center and sign up. We've invited some of the science classes from the high school in Oliver and the high school in Osoyoos to attend, and that's free of charge for them, and they're going to be able to look at the agenda and see which things they'd like to attend. So it's a great opportunity to have a lot of scientists, really top-notch people that have ideas on zebra, quagga mussels, blue-green algae, how to protect the lake, milfoil. All of those things will be brought up at these 3 days. The first day is the Columbia River Treaty. That's a separate one. And then there is the next 2 days, the 8th and the 9th, which is the Science Forum. So past Mayor Stu Wells is the chair of this, and he will be conducting the proceedings. So I think that's all I had to say, other than the next meeting that council should have would be on the 21st of September, and it has been canceled because all of us will be in Vancouver at that time at UBCM. We're down there, Union of BC Municipalities, and we're there for a week of meetings with all the other representatives from towns and cities in the province. So we will see you back here in a month, I guess, unless there's anything that you need attended to. Please come in and phone Mr. Romanko. He'd be happy to take your call. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and enjoy the sunshine. It's supposed to get warmer this week. So we need a resolution. Thank you. That would be Rhodes Campbell. All in favor? Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Carol, guess what? I'm going to Summerland, the opening of the library on October 3rd.